Eden Marryshow, welcome inside the crazy ant farm, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Oh, dude, we are living the dream, my man. Living the dream.
Such a good day to be alive.
It really is, man.
Yeah, we are super excited to talk to you. We know this interview is going to be an absolute blast. Well, obviously, we have a ton of our listeners are huge Archive 81 fans.
Of course.
So, so they're pumped. They're ready. And we're pumped because, we have so many questions.
Dude,
so many theories.
The theories are crazy right now. I mean, we're big on Twitter, and freaking when we're talking to people about this thing, they're throwing stuff left and right. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
We had Charlie Hudson III on, and man, he was talking about all that shit too.
Yeah, Charlie Honest, my man.
Man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's epic, man. He's epic.
Oh, yeah.
But what we like to do at the very beginning of all of our interviews is introduce you to our audience a little bit. Let them know how you got started. Was it something you always wanted to do, or did you just kind of fall into it?
Well, my dad had like a little repertory theater company.
Okay.
That we used to. So he's an educator. And then he would come home on the weekends, and then we would, have these rehearsals and stuff in the basement of our house.
Mm-hmm.
And we would do like performances out in the city at like, smaller like black box theaters and whatnot. So that was like my introduction to it. And the way I bonded and continue to bond with my dad is through movies.
Ooh.
So it's like some kids play football, basketball, whatever with their dad. My father hates sports, and it was all about movies and VHSs and laser discs and all of that stuff.
Yes, sir. Was he the type of guy that he was the technology guy? He had the new, latest thing. Was he that guy?
He's that, yeah. He's that dude. He's that dude. I think it was like Bloodsport or like Kickboxer.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had 2 VCRs and did like his own like bootleg edit, and then when Van Damme was doing that roundhouse at the end, he just keeps kicking him like 7 times.
I love that.
Can't tell you how many times. Yeah, I had that set up. I had me some bootleg edits there. Shh.
I love that though. I love that. So I mean, we obviously can. Are you from Brooklyn?
Yeah, born and raised.
Born and raised.
Totally
you can tell.
I'm sure you hear it.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean,
actually, I take that back because my lady always says that I spent 2 days in Manhattan. I was born at St. Vincent's.
Oh, okay.
I was born and raised in
You got to
Buffalo.
be technical, You got
That's
to
right.
be technical. That's so funny. Well, being from New York and being from Brooklyn, I mean, you think about New York and you think more about theater rather than film and television. Was that like what you started in basically? I mean, was on stage more of a home before film and television?
I think like I started acting in my dad's plays as a kid.
Right.
So like I didn't do a lot of the school stuff, but I was coming home with my dad, and like we bonded that way. So yeah, it was definitely as a youngster just being in his plays for a little bit, and then I was in a film when I was 13 because a dude named Larry Gilliard, who's on the I think Larry Gilliard. He was on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
He was in a film called Straight Out of Brooklyn, and his partner Moni Lewa was in one of my dad's plays, and they were looking for a kid in this movie.
All
There
right.
you go.
And then I auditioned. I was like 13. It was a movie called Lotto Land. That was interestingly enough like the first movie for a lot of actors. Daphne Rubin Vega, Terrence Howard, John Ortiz, like a lot of cats. And I was just like this little kid that was like in
Yeah, man.
So, and then after that, I kind of like, to be honest, I got to a point where I felt like I was just doing it because my dad did it and it was an interest to him. So it was kind of like, and my father was always like, yo, man, if you're going to do this shit, like, you got to do it.
Right.
Like, and I think other folks didn't understand that, thought he was being hard on me. And in retrospect, he wasn't. He was just trying to show me respect for the craft.
For sure.
And I kind of was like, nah, I'm in high school. I'm doing like, there were other interests. But then when I got to college was when I really was like, you know what? I can't. I have to, like, I was always watching director commentaries on DVDs, which to me is like, that's heartbreaking. Like that we're losing that, man.
Yeah.
Because those are straight up film schools back in the day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure.
So, I'm watching like whether it's like Boomerang or fucking El Mariachi, the other side of whatchamacallit, Desperado.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
Listening to those directors' commentaries, I was just like, I just love movies, man.
Mhm.
So I jumped into film school at Brooklyn College. So it shows you how Brooklyn I am. I went to Brooklyn Technical.
Right?
That's right. Not Manhattan College, Brooklyn
Yeah,
College.
not,
That's right.
not Manhattan College. And so, man, I went to I enrolled in Brooklyn College, and I was a film major, film. So from then it was about film, it was about filmmaking, and I was working simultaneously at the Department of Education, so I wasn't like a teaching artist or anything like that. Like I was like legitimately what they call a paraprofessional.
All right.
Yes, I was an assistant teacher. So I was like 18, and I was doing that, and then they would give you what they called release time. So like they wanted paraprofessionals to become teachers, so they would pay for 6 credits.
Right.
Oh.
Okay.
And then you could leave early on a day a week to like go to school.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
like working at the Board of Ed. I was taking like 12 or 18 credits, I forget, but I was leaving every Wednesday to like go to go to film school.
Yeah.
And kind of how this ties around to like where I'm at now. I had a student named Latina Bilbro. So like the way it works at the Board of Ed is that, and everybody who's out there like that has like a quote unquote like real job or survival job,
Right.
And I know this pod is also for folks that are like, maybe they're thinking about, what, maybe I could do this shit.
That's right.
I started when I was 18. I was working with what they call at-risk children, or the technical term at the time was size 7 children. Basically, kids that had emotional, behavioral issues, and if they were old enough, the system would probably incarcerate them. So you usually have like 12 kids with like 3 adults in a room usually. So it's like a teacher and 2 paraprofessionals and like 12 students. And literally the first day I get in there, I'm like 18. There's this 8-year-old boy who just literally just goes, yo, man, who the fuck are you, yo?
Okay.
And he had this North Face jacket on, the baseball cap,
Yes,
and he
sir.
had, for all my black folks out there, they know when it's cold, you get that Vaseline on your face. And she was like, and then it comes to find out that it wasn't a dude, it was a little girl.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
Telling me to fuck off, and that was like the beginning of like a love affair. You meet people in your life, and you're like, man, I feel like I've known you, like you were my little sister, or I was some kind of caretaker for you, or maybe it was the other way around. But you have those connections in life where you're just like, yo, you're my tribe. And so her name was Latina Bilbro, and all my kids in my class, man. So the first film company I had, I called Class 511 because that was the class that I had. And when I would leave on Wednesdays, man, every day, like she would be the person that would encourage me.
Yeah.
She'd be like, she'd be like, yo, Marryshow, where you going? And I'm like, yo, I'm going to learn how to make movies. She'd say, yo, you gonna be famous someday? And like I didn't believe in myself, like most of us don't. And
Right.
to try to just encourage her, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make movies. And she was like, she always tell me, I believe in you. And the way it works in sped ed, man, is like, if you're good around a kid, they stay with you because they assume that their home lives, and that's not the case. There's a lot of awesome parents, like Latina had great parents, but they assume that the home life isn't.
Right.
So you can be with a kid for 1, 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
So Peanut was with me for like 3 years. So that was my baby.
Yeah.
So, and we would do things outside of school with the kids. It was just like, it's just a different kind of familiar family environment. Anyway, 10 years later, it's, she's 18, week after her 18th birthday, I get a call. I'm driving into work with my dad, and I got a call that, Latina was killed. And it's like every time I tell the story, man, it's just, she was killed in a drive-by coming home from braiding her cousin's hair. And I just remember talking to her in her casket, I was just like, yo, I'm gonna do this for both of us, you know? Like, you can't do it. Like, I gotta make sure that excuse me, I gotta keep my promise to you.
Right.
So, and it was crazy because like I would bribe her and teach her how to read by. I would teach her how to read by like I'd say, hey, I'll teach you how to draw Snoopy.
There you go.
Or like, I'd play basketball with her,
Mm-hmm.
Hit her really hard, man, because I'd be like, these boys aren't going to be able to hit you as hard as I can hit you.
That's right.
And then, in her obituary, it said that she loved to draw and play basketball. And, shit. It still hurts, man. So I said, all right, I'm going to do this. But I stayed at the Board of It for another year because I was so scared. And then it came around like her birthday. I forget what it was. And she just kept being on my mind. And I was talking to one of my kids, man. And I was just trying to tell him all the time, follow your dreams. Dreams are real. Like this is possible.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of my kids just was just like, I was editing some film in the back on like an old school fucking iMac, man. Like I was going to town, right? Of this film I made, or like during my lunch break. And one of my students looked at me, Trayvon Israel. He said, Mr. Marryshow, what are you doing here? Like a fucking 10-year-old kid just like looks at you. And it's really like he's like 80.
Right.
And he's just like, dude, why are you here?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I think this has run its course. Like, I love this job, but the only way I'm going to reach these kids now is if I go out there and show them. Because, not to get into neuroscience and all that, but like with mirror neurons, like that's how humans learn.
That's right.
You can talk all the shit you want. You can say all like, you could do this, whatever. But if somebody that's close to you, you see them do it, you think it's possible.
That's right.
So
Yes,
I was
sir.
like, you know what? I gave, I let them know I was going to be out by the end of the summer. Gave up. I was like half into my pension. I gave that up. I gave them my health care coverage, which was really wild because I was a severe asthmatic. I no longer am. There was a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
But it was that thing, right? It's like, when you have a big enough why, you'll move.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So that was the thing, man. I was like, you know what, Pete? I made a promise. And now I'm out here. I don't know how this is fucking gonna happen.
Right.
But I'm not gonna be that. Is another story. But my boy Sean Clark, he had an assistant principal who played music every assembly. And he knew that Sean and I would like make, like trying to make films and do all this other stuff. And then he just turned to him one day and he was just like, Sean, regret is all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah. That's deep, man.
That is deep.
I mean, for real. Man, we have to say thank you for sharing that story and I mean telling us that because that really means a lot to us because there's a lot of people that are just down in the trenches and they don't know what to do. They have this dream and they don't know how to pursue it. And your story right there will give people the courage to take that leap to that next level and chase that dream.
And so much mad respect for you, bro, because regardless of the story of going on and chasing the dream and realizing it and doing what you're doing now, but to step up and be that kind of guy that's going to work with those children and make a difference in those children's life, and know that you made, and the tragedy that happened with Peanut, but you made that difference with her. And it takes a special kind of person to be able to step up and do that for these children. And I have so much respect for you. And so the fact that you even stayed a year later because you felt like you weren't done yet and you still kind of needed to be there and do your thing, dude, that's amazing. That story and sharing that with us and then carrying that forward to what you're doing now and taking the leap that you took, but never forgetting where you came from and that promise that you made. That's everything, my man. And so much respect for you. So much respect.
I appreciate it. When I was on Broadway for the first time a couple years ago, like my debut, that was the biggest argument that I had with my agents. And the company was because they wanted my bio and they wanted it to be like very, it's very specific. It's like all the things that you've been in. I really didn't give a shit. I was like, all I care about, like I wrote this bio about PS250, P256.
That's right.
And about Peanut. That was it. That's all I cared about.
Right.
And so it was a negotiation, but in the end, I was able to, to say it, to put her name in the program.
Hell yeah.
Again,
That it's really beautiful, man, because I mean we both come from very different backgrounds, but very kind of like the same backgrounds where him and I have both had tragic losses where it happens way too young, and just being able to, trying to overcome that, because it would be so easy just to stay locked in a room somewhere and mourn the situation and just not do anything else because you don't want to do anything else. But you have to have that strength to pick yourself up off the ground and continue doing it for that person or those people. That's what it's all about. So like I said, I mean, that story really touches home with us, so I really appreciate it.
So now, to bring this back up, let's lighten it up a little bit, right? Clearly, we have established now in this first half of this interview, you are a genuinely good man with a good heart, and you are solid. So how is it that you are able to play such a bad man on Archive 81? That's that acting skill right there, my man. So, of course, let's talk about Archive 81 because it's huge right now. Everybody's into it. For a lot of people that had no idea it started off as a podcast. So we asked Charlie that. We're going to ask you, were you aware that it was a podcast before you read for it or had any idea what the history was?
Yeah, so like when I read, usually like when I read a breakdown or I get the email or whatever, I kind of start digging in. I did know it was a podcast and kind of, listen to an episode or two, but then realized that it was kind of it was based on a thing, but it was a different thing.
Right, yeah. Right.
And that's why sometimes as an actor, you have to just say, you know what, like this isn't actually going to serve me.
Right.
And then to the bad guy, I think, you learn at acting school that, one of the first things they say is that you're capable, you have to get comfortable with the fact that you're capable of doing anything.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
So for me, it's actually, not that hard because I'm playing,
Right.
Like I'm in the sandbox. So, I guess, for me, in my head, in my process, I was trying to humanize him.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find ways for it to make sense for me to do what I'm doing.
Right. And
I had like little secrets for myself that I was like, okay, let me hold on to this so that I could validate why I was doing what I was doing.
Nice.
Right. And just like we were talking about with Charlie's character, because we didn't know if he was a good guy or bad guy. And for like the longest time in the season, we didn't know whether or not like you even knew any of this shit was going on, whether you were just like maintaining the building, trying to keep everybody cool, but keeping everybody away from that 6th floor and like all this different shit. But like, we really didn't know that your character had the motive that he had until like that one of those last episodes. I think it might have been episode 5 or episode 6 when they're like down in the basement and they all put on the mask and I'm like, no, not him, no.
Dude, just sidebar, how dope. Charlie was so dope in that scene when they were in the other world and he was trying to get him to like sit down for.
It was so good. I mean, we were talking about that too. Like everybody's performance in this thing is just like up to the next bar. Like it was absolutely phenomenal. When you talk about, because this is a whole like trifecta of things. You got like, you think it might be extraterrestrial, you think it might be like cult worship, or you think it might be, like spirits coming back from the grave. Like there's so many different aspects that are they're throwing at you, but it all works together so well. And especially like, we couldn't give enough credit to the writing. That writing staff was absolutely badass for every single character too, because I feel like you do get, where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing,
Yeah, no doubt. I think it starts at the top with Rebecca Sonnenschein, who's the showrunner, and Becca Thomas, who there was just such a calm and chill on set.
Yeah,
You know, the last thing you want is somebody fucking yelling at you.
exactly.
And yeah, people can perform under those conditions because people are professionals. But when there's somebody who like their emotional IQ is like equal to their like regular IQ, like you have with Rebecca and Becca, it's just really a treat. It's really a treat to go to work. The other thing too, because I, like y'all, like I direct and write things myself.
Yeah.
The thing that will frustrate me as an actor is when a director doesn't listen to my ideas.
Yeah.
Because like as an actor, you're like, yo, you spent way more time with this character than anybody.
That's right.
So they were so open to listen, to collaborate, and at the same time just had everything kind of, I don't know, maybe it wasn't like that, but it seemed on the outside like they had everything figured out, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. And I mean, we were talking about the technology too, man. Like when you get to those like last 3 episodes, like the CGI effects where like the creatures coming out of the screen and shit, like I mean, other than Stranger Things, which they're paying like a shit ton of money for, but like I haven't really seen anything like that Netflix has put that type of money or that type of effort into. So I thought it was a beautiful thing for them to put it in this one from a relatively like, because I mean Stranger Things was huge off the get-go, but like a relatively unknown project when they first premiered it.
Yeah. I feel like it kind of had a Stranger Things trajectory.
It did, yeah.
Right? Like it was a similar vibes. I mean, being there for that scene with all those special effects and shit, man, like I had never been, like I'm an independent filmmaker.
Right.
Like, so I see like this ball, like it's just this ball that's like whirling around. Right. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is this like the fucking?
That's right.
It looked like straight out of Old School. Like he was like twirling. It was like half. Well, y'all know it was like half mirror, half whatever.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Like, dude, what the fuck is that?
That's right. Yeah, in the indie world, we don't know what that is. Like, what?
Yeah,
wait, hold up. That's so good.
And Netflix really treated me really well. It was just a lot of fun, man.
I think that not just with Archive 81, but with several dozen shows, we've had a lot of guests on from different Netflix shows. They all equal that to what you say, that the work environment on their projects and the work environment, it's just they're treated with respect. They're treated with the way that you want to be treated when you're creating. So kudos to Netflix, because we hear that continuously from guest after guest after guest. And I'll tell you, I want to go back to what you said a little bit earlier, because I think the reason that your character resonates so well and that people are connecting to you, even if you are the bad guy, is because I think bad guys resonate very well with the audience when you do try to not make them the bad guy. What is the reason this guy is doing what he's doing? Where is he coming from? Let's try to humanize him and say, if you were this, what would you be doing? And you did that brilliantly. And I think that's why people connect to your character and like, yeah, God, we want to hate this guy, but do we hate this guy? and I love that. I think when you're a bad guy and you can pull off getting the audience to root for you anyway, then you're doing something right. And I think you accomplished that, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, because Hollywood was shut down for a good, 3 or 4 months because of the pandemic. And then we all finally started to go back to work. We shot a film during the pandemic and we were completely safe. How did it feel on this set during the pandemic?
I mean, dude, it was just like, I kept saying if America operated like a Netflix set, it would be all right.
Yeah.
There was protocol on top of protocol on top of protocol. And it was super fucking efficient. People were coming to test you. You were going to get tested. They tested me in Brooklyn. They tested me. It was different. There was all kinds of different levels, like different zones.
Yeah,
you had to wear more and more PPE. And then we had like this wild, it was like, it was a shield, but it came around your neck so you could like click it down so you could get hair and makeup.
Okay.
You couldn't get on set until you were tested. Like, you got tested, and then you got tested when you were there.
Damn.
So I felt uber safe.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
we love to hear that. We love to hear that. And I mean, plus, like we were talking about, I mean, we're really hoping for season 2 because I really thought, while you're watching this thing, you're like, it has to be a limited series. I mean, they're setting it up like a limited series, but then literally that last episode, you're like, holy fuck, there needs to be a season 2. Like, there's
yeah,
so
man.
many unexplained answers and questions that we just don't know yet. That I mean, there's so many more like possibilities for it to go
Heck yeah.
down. Like, and I mean, plus with all of y'all like being from the past, like the 80s or whatever, and then playing into current time, I feel like since old boy Samuel is still in that other world, like with the main character dude now, like he's got to play into it as well. So I mean, your character and everybody else's has to be brought back for season 2.
That would be great. I think about that. I mean, I anticipate there being a season 2.
I think
And
so.
also, man, Evan, Mamadou, all those cats,
Yeah.
Dean, everybody, it was just so, again, amazing to work with, man.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
It's
It's
really
a
good
phenomenal cast. It really is. And the chemistry shows through. Like, you could clearly tell you guys were having fun doing it. So,
Yeah, we all liked each other.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
yeah, man.
That's important, man.
And also,
That's
too,
important.
we're working at a time too when things would like shut
That's
Like,
right.
down. So it's
Down.
also an amount of gratitude, right? It's just like, wow, like I'm getting to work. Like I'm super grateful.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So you're talking about being an indie filmmaker. We're indie filmmakers right now, so
Get it.
we want to talk about the hustle a little bit, man. I
So-
mean, so what part of indie filmmaking do you do, or are you like a natural born where you wear all the hats?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of again my dad was wearing all the hats in theater, so I think I kind of was like
Inherited that shit.
Yeah, that's where the cloth I'm cut from.
That's right.
So like yeah, Brooklyn College, learned the stuff behind the camera. Was learning the stuff in front of the camera with my dad, and then I ended up going to conservatory. I made a film I made my first feature. So what we used to do on my block,
Yeah.
we on public access, man. I don't even know if people know about public. Anyway, we would make these movies of the week, man. So I was at film school, and this is when mini DV and like digital started to just creep in. Because like at film school, I was working with Super 8,
Yeah.
Right.
Super 16 millimeter. So we had this mini DV camera, and what I would do was I would go to Sears, and I got a Sears card. So I bought an iMac, like the original iMac.
Yeah.
And like I got one of those like Firewire, like little Panasonic
That's right.
cameras, and then we would do like these little 50-minute movie of the weeks that we would put on public
Nice.
access. So I would write it in like a few days, then shoot it for a week, and then edit it for another week.
Nice.
And then at the end of it, I would return. I always say like I'm the reason they created the restocking fee, because I would come in, I would use the camera for like 3 weeks, and I would be like, here you go, and then I would go back the next month and get another one. And then in 2005, I was still working at the Board of Ed, and I made a feature film called This Thing Called Love, and I made it for $300. So it was literally like, and this is for all those folks out there that are like looking to start something. One, it's gonna suck ass. Like, this is something that I say to everybody. Like I'm like, the only reason I've ever made what I've made is because I come to a realization like, yo, this probably is gonna suck. And I know this sounds like counterintuitive, but it's just like I can realize like if I could get somewhat okay with that. If I'm like, yo, more than likely this is gonna suck, but I'll get better.
Yes.
Right. It's about the learning experience.
Exactly. It's like I'll get better. Perfection's not real. So I made this film in 2005 called This Thing Called Love. It was like for $300, but again, it was my family and friends.
Right.
Right. So we would like take a broom, tape the boom mic to the broom.
Yeah.
We go to Home Depot, buy a lot of those floodlights, but then buy diffusion and buy CTB and CTO and all these other things, right? And then my dad was like trying to help coach my friends in the basement, like with acting and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we made this film, made it for $300. Then I was we had like this dope ass premiere at the Brooklyn Museum.
Nice.
Like 600 people, like standing room only kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people enjoyed it, but again, it was one of those situations where I didn't believe in myself.
Right.
So all I kind of did was like tear it apart.
Mm.
Right? I was just like, no, this is whack. Like that's whack. Like blah, blah, blah. But people sitting here like legitimately enjoying it.
There you go.
It was entertaining, entertain them. So then I'm at the Board of Ed. That's the movie that I was editing when my student came up to me. It was like, yo, Marryshow,
what are you doing? Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I left, did a bunch of like crazy odd jobs. I remember I was driving this older gentleman with dementia to the golf course. Found that on Craigslist. He was super sweet.
Nice.
I was like driving, visiting nurses around, anything that I could like do. Right. There was a time where I was dead fucking broke. And I went, it was the day after Halloween, and all those candies at Walgreens went on sale. It was a big bag of Reese's.
Yeah.
Big buttercups. And they were selling them for $1. I think I bought like 10 or 11 of them in a quart or gallon of milk. And that shit, I was on that for like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Damn.
That's what I ate, bro. But when I look back at those times, man, they were fucking awesome because I was going after something. There was a reason why I was doing it. It wasn't like I was struggling because I can't do that. Like that's a different kind of struggle.
Right.
Like the struggle when you have control of your life, right? And you're like, I'm making a decision to do this. Yep. It just feels different. It is the other thing, like people that are starting to create or that are creating, don't write Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like write some shit you can do.
Right.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like write a film where there's 2 microphones and a film reel and like 3 pictures on. You know what I mean? Like do that. And that's what Jesse and I did. Like
when you don't have any money, don't be writing some shit that's in outer space. Like like you don't have it. You don't have it.
And then get tight. Like why isn't anybody making my thing?
Exactly.
And then when you people don't get on a train that's at the depot.
Right.
People only get on a moving train. Yep. That's it. It doesn't make any sense.
That's beautiful, bro. Like all of that, I feel like is really going to help the up and comers, that's going to give them motivation to break into it. And I feel like that right there, that's the little cherry on top that is just going to wrap up this interview, because I feel like how could you not walk away from this conversation feeling motivated? I feel motivated right now just listening to you, bro. Like, it's so good. It's so good. We can't thank you enough, bro. Like, for real. Like, open invite. Anytime you ever want to come back on, bro, we are more than welcome. We will make a time slot. We will make it happen. Like, we do like an interview segment, or obviously we do an interview segment, but we do an industry news segment where we talk about the entertainment news. We do a top 5 segment. A couple weeks ago, we did like top 5 historical sports moments. This week, it's top 5 directors of color. Like, what
were your top 5? What were your top 5 sports moments?
The one that sticks out to me the most right now was obviously the Jordan flu game when old boy was playing the Jazz in the finals. And I'm from Indiana, so I love the Pacers, and I'm all about basketball. So Reggie Miller scoring those points in like that amount of time.
My ass. This was going really well.
Yeah, right there, because you're a Knicks fan. That's right.
But it's funny, like I'm one Knicks fan that for some reason I always had a soft spot for Reggie Miller.
Dude, he's
There's
so
something
good
about a guy who's like limited athletically. That just gives people the business.
Yes.
That's right.
It's about this.
It's so good, man. It's so good. Well, listen, it's all about social media now. We want people to follow you. So where are you at on social media?
At Eden Marryshow on Instagram.
Fantastic.
I'm not really on Twitter or anything like that.
For anybody out there listening, pick up a fucking broomstick and put on a microphone and do your shit. Dude, we've been there. We have had the mic on the broomstick. We know all about that shit. That's how you make it. That's how you get it done. I loved that you said that. I was just like, fuck yeah, we've all had it. It works. That's right. That's a stick and that's a fucking mic. Now it's a boom mic. You good?
Yeah, hey,
Oh, dude, man, have a great rest of the fucking night. Have a great weekend, and dude,
you
just
as
like
well.
thanks so much for the interview, bro. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it.
That man can hold a conversation.
He can.
But I'm glad because
Yeah.
that story. If you're not like right now thinking that you can chase your dream and make it happen, he is the epitome of no matter what happens to you, no matter where you're coming from, whether you're broke as fuck, as he said, whether you know, dude, circumstance, you can do it and
Literally.
you can make it happen, and you don't need a lot of money. Like he said, $2,500, and it got a national
Yeah.
release. Come on, guys,
I
get
know.
out there and chase that dream.
So good, so good. Thank you again, Eden, for coming on the show.